Hey guys, welcome to the daily analysis. A few things we're going to cover today. One of the main things I want to cover is the euro and dollar weakness that hit the market today. Right now I have the euro CAD chart up and you can see the reversal sign in that. So we'll cover some of these charts pretty briefly because there's not a lot yet to see in my opinion. It might take a little bit longer throughout the week, at least tomorrow, before we get a little more clear idea. But nonetheless, I want to cover some of these major pairs like euro CAD, euro dollar, USD CAD, euro pound, and even a few others, and just give you a quick overview of how the market opened in terms of strength for each of these currencies. Okay, so that's what we're going to get into right after we cover our news and terms. All right, and quickly, the terms just say that the daily analysis is not for an investment service. It's just an educational purpose that we offered you as our opinion of the market. It's not to be taken as investment advice. Any decisions you make to risk your own money is between you and should be considered with a financial advisor, not just on a website, because we're just here to serve you with our own opinions. Okay, so if you need to pause that and read through it, go ahead. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at our news for tomorrow. Alright guys, and for news tomorrow, there's not a ton of red text stuff to pay attention to. One thing that's kind of interesting is that Bank of England inflation letter, and that's tentative, so we don't know the time yet, but that could be an interesting event depending on what comes out there, so keep an eye on that one. But as far as later on New York session and later, not too much going on, so the news is relatively light as we look into Tuesday, but keep an eye because later on, and we'll talk about this in tomorrow's analysis, there's a few major announcements that could certainly affect us, especially with light volatility in the market and everything else, so light liquidity in the market. So those will be bigger events, but tomorrow not a ton going on. Okay guys, so the first thing I want to show you here is this euro CAD daily chart that I alluded to earlier, and you can see that we're sitting on a very major level on the euro CAD. Now, it's interesting because this level also corresponds with a 38.2. You can see my fib level right here that's going across, and that's from the longer term swing, but you can just see how many times it's been tested. First it was broke through, and then tested, broke back through, and since then it's been tested and rejected, all the way down to around 121.5, and then a massive rally all the way up to 130, which is where we're sitting right now. So, of course, the obvious question here is, are we continuing to test, are we going to get retests, or is this a continuation of this movement? Now, there's a few things to keep an eye on. One would be this little mini trend line that's forming here and kind of creating this upward triangle toward that 130 level. So, a bounce, keep your targets under control if you're playing a short here, because you don't want to target the previous low when, in fact, you have this upward trend line that could very well catch and continue this back up into that level once again. So within this wedge, seems like there's some good potential of continuation of bounce. Now let me draw this level again, show you what the pip count would be. If you grab price where it is now and assume a slight angle toward the trend line, it's still about 130, 140 pips toward that trend line, so still a lot of room really to make a good entry. And I would assume that assuming that there's not major euro reversal news or anything, this is a high probability continuation because the market has waved in between these levels for a pretty long time, major levels here, and so I think that this would be a pretty high probability trade, but of course it depends on if it follows your trading plan and what exactly you're looking for. But the one thing I would say is make sure you keep an eye on this trend line and don't get where your target should be confused, because it should not be lower than 128 considering the upward trend line. So that's euro CAD. That's kind of my insight on it. It seems like a pretty good candlestick, very slightly rose through the 130. Always remember that the possibility of a retest before continuing is very likely, so keep that in mind in terms of where your stop loss might be, but definitely a good candle, an inside bar pushing back down, and some high probability of continuation in my opinion, and of course that's barring some major euro positive news, but we'll keep an eye on that. Okay, next I want to quickly show you the euro dollar. And I just want to spend a second on this because we have this move. It's looking like it has potential to break out, and I showed you the weekly chart on Friday, and you can go back and look at that analysis if you wish. But it looks like there's potential breakout here on the daily and the weekly, but it's just going to take more bars because right now this little stall bar right on top of that 130, 160 level is not enough. We need to either see strong continuation or a re-break back toward the downside, because with the information that we have right now, it's just not a lot to go on. So I'm thinking that this has some potential both for the upside and the downside. It's just going to depend on what price action does next. So right now, not enough evidence. That is one that I'm just going to plan on sitting and waiting for. Now, as the euro just kind of stalled out and had a very slight bearish day, the pound dollar continued its rally to the upside. Now, our next level is going to be obviously where price is now corresponding with this top, and that's not a major level, obviously, just a little of consolidation here in the top of this candle. It won't be a major level until it touches these tops, which is still a little bit of ways to go, but we'll see if it reacts to this level at all. If it does get to this level, this top, which is about 162.70, then that'll get very interesting, because obviously we'll have the short potential of a very strong bounce off that major level, or the potential breakout, which will be a very significant breakout. So right now it is kind of sitting at a point, not a major level, not one that I've marked on my charts previously, but we are continuing towards our very major level coming up, and that will be one to talk about. So we will talk about it when it gets there. And speaking of stalling out, you can see that the odd dollar very much the same. It's been in this channel now for 4 days. Today's bar did absolutely nothing, and so it's just, again, as far as the odd goes, we're just going to have to see a break and a test of either this level or a retest of this trend line or something to give us direction, because right now it's just kind of hanging in no man's land and doing nothing, which again is frustrating, but there's really nothing you can do about it. It's just a matter of waiting until it tests a major level or makes a breakout or does something worth noting, because trying to trade a market that's just hanging in no man's land or really not doing anything is an easy way to lose money. So that's just what I'm not paying attention to, again, which is unfortunate, but we're getting towards later December where the markets are not as tradable, and so in that kind of situation you don't want to force trades. You want to wait for good setups, and at this point there's just not any to be found. And even though there's not any good trades to be found on the odd dollar, the euro pound has some potential. Obviously, this major level that we've talked about a lot is providing a great bounce. Now, again, very similar to the euro CAD, we kind of have this uptrend, this wedge that's building between these levels, and so a good bearish move only means so much when there's an upward trend line going the other way. So that's kind of up to your discretion as far as trading is concerned. If you want to take that counter trend strong bounce, what your target's going to be, all of that. But there's definitely major levels to keep in mind, and in my opinion, some trade opportunity depending on the exact strategy that you're going to be using, how you're going to manage the trade, and the other variables. But nonetheless, good movement on the euro pound at least, which we can't say about all the pairs. So that's worth noting. Alright guys, and so that's probably the last pair that I'll cover today. Again, the markets are getting thinner. There's not going to be as many great trade opportunities. There might be some irrational spikes and things like that, which you have to keep in mind. But in this time, we're getting closer toward Christmas and of course New Year's coming. When December ends, which is going to be, I guess, around a 3-week period of time where there's not going to be a lot of great trade quality. And when that's happening, it's a matter of either not trading, just turning off the charts, turning off the computer, and being disciplined and saying you're not going to trade, or just waiting, continuing to stay to your plan, just waiting for the very sound setups and continuing to trade through that time. Which I don't necessarily think that you should pull the trigger, on every trade that meets your quality or meets your trading plan, if you're weary of the holidays and that affecting the market. If you have that mindset, then just pull the plug rather than pull the trigger and don't trade at all. But if you have a good trading plan, if you're confident and you're willing to take quality setups regardless of the time, I don't think there's necessarily a problem with trading during during the middle toward the end of December. Obviously, I'm not going to be trading on Christmas Eve or even the 26th, but if you have a little bit of time around Christmas Day and it's the 21st and 22nd, if there's good trade setups, then they're probably worth taking regardless of the time, because a trading plan is a trading plan for a reason. So that's my stance on it. Obviously you can find a lot of different stances, but if the market is moving consistently enough to give you a trade signal, then there's typically some profit potential in that. And maybe you want to be a little more strict because of the time, but I don't think it nullifies all trade signals. And again, that's just my personal opinion. Okay, so that's my spiel on that. Thanks guys for watching the analysis, and I will talk to you tomorrow.